We've been talking some about pain and suffering in the world, and today I want to talk about one of the most surprising ways that God brings comfort and strength to us in the midst of tough times. I'm glad you're here for it. Well, this is the 7 at 7, and I'm glad that you're up and at it this morning, or you've made time during your day to drop in. We have been talking some about pain and suffering in the world. It's one of the great questions that people ask when it comes to God and the things of this world. We all know that pain and suffering is wrong. It's not the way that things are supposed to be. And today I want to talk a little bit, again, about a really surprising way that God provides strength to us in the midst of our suffering. And part of the thing that happens in the midst of suffering is we ask the question, why has this happened? And it's easy to always blame what's happened on sin or to look to someone to blame because they did something wrong. In fact, this is exactly what Jesus was talking about in the 9th chapter of the book of John, when someone came and found a blind man and said, is this man blind because of his own sin or something that his parents did? And Jesus says, no, the reason for his blindness isn't connected to either one of those two people's sin, but through what's happened to this man, I'm going to glorify God. There's going to be a sense of meaning that comes out of this difficult situation. And I just think in our own lives, we need to recognize that this is often true. We can't always pinpoint exactly why this thing has happened. Can we pin it back to this sin or that sin? Or is it just part of the fact that we live in a broken world? That's really the reason that's behind it, or all the things we talked about on Sunday. But what we can know is that in the middle of our pain, if we will look to God, He will seek to redeem it, and He'll make something important of it. And one of the ways He does that is He makes our pain meaningful. How so? Well, He uses our painful situations in life in order to help others. And that's what was going on with this blind man. And Jesus was saying, you know what? Through this man's blindness, a lot of people are going to be able to see God, and the good things of God are going to be revealed to them. It doesn't necessarily mean that God caused the blindness, but He has allowed it, and He's going to use it for something good. Now, in your own life and mine, when we go through tough times, one of the things that can really help us to feel better about our tough circumstance is just to know that not only is God in it, but God is going to use what's going on for some kind of good, either in our lives or the lives of somebody around us. I think this is the fulfillment of that great passage out of Romans chapter 8 that says, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Of course, it doesn't say that all things are good. Some things really bad happen in this world. They're painful and horrible, and God weeps over our suffering. But there is something redemptive in knowing that even in the worst circumstances of our lives, God is seeking to bring about good things, and He is at work even when we can't see how. I've talked to you before about the ministry of suffering. It's this notion that in order for somebody to have the chance to serve, someone to have the opportunity to grow and to be selfless and choose to love someone else, there has to be someone who needs to be loved, who needs to be helped. There needs to be someone who is hurting or suffering that needs compassion and caring. And so in those moments when you and I fall into difficult times, when we suffer, we present an opportunity for someone to help us, and we have a ministry of suffering. We have a way of serving others through our suffering. Now, we don't always get to choose to have that particular ministry, but when it comes on us, we do have the opportunity to respond with a yes when God provides us the opportunity to have it. And when we do, our suffering suddenly has meaning. We're aware that God is at work through what's going on in us to bless other people and to help them. One of the things that happened when our daughter was so sick is that there were a lot of people who were praying for us. And even after she died, there was a man in our church that came to us and said, you know what? One of the things that happened to our family during the illness of your daughter is that we learned to pray. For the first time, we knelt beside our daughter's bed every night before bedtime, and we prayed. We prayed for you and for your wife and for your daughter. And I don't understand why it is that she died and didn't live, but I do know that through what happened in those months, our family became a praying family, and our daughter learned to pray. Now, again, I don't think God caused our daughter to fall into pain, but I do know that she had an incredible ministry of suffering, and that her days were used by God to help other people. And maybe that family would have never learned to pray if it hadn't been for our daughter's sickness. It's complicated and it hurts our head, but I do know that for me, there was something really important about the fact that our daughter didn't suffer in pain, that there was some meaning in her suffering. And I hope this is helpful to you. You and I have a choice about that when we suffer, whether or not we'll see that our suffering can have meaning. And if we trust in God, we can believe that all things do work together for good. He uses even the worst and most painful things in our lives to accomplish good. I mean, not just good for us, but often good for people around us, people that we love, people who would never have the opportunity to step forward and grow in their faith if it wasn't for the difficult stuff we're going through. I hope this is helpful to you. It has been to me all of my life. Our pain doesn't have to be meaningless. And when it has a purpose, it helps us to deal with it and even to find comfort in the fact that our pain's not being wasted. Well, this is a tough topic. I hope it's been important to you today. I love you guys. Have a wonderful week. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.